So what do you think of this get-up? Well, I'm wearing it to prove a point. You see, back in the Old South, if a weary traveler was traveling down a road and saw a farmhouse or a plantation in the distance, he could often stop and get a hot meal or even a place to stay. Well, of course, today we wouldn't do that, just show up at someone's house and expect a meal or a place to sleep. But I'll tell you, Southern hospitality is still very much alive. As we travel across the South to Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and good old Arkansas. So we've all heard about Southern hospitality. You can experience it throughout all regions of the South. This tradition of making guests feel comfortable goes way back, 17th, 18th centuries, and even up till today. You see, the idea was to extend a welcome to someone into your home, whether it was grand or modest.
This is Trapnall Hall. It was built in 1843 for Frederick and Martha Trapnall, who were a wealthy couple. The term of Southern hospitality is more of a modern phrase. The Trapnalls would have been good hosts, however. They would have provided entertainment and rest and relief for friends traveling to see them. There were a number of books written in the 19th century about social etiquette and manners. You're going to be raised, going to school, knowing these things. Your tutors are going to instruct you on the art of speaking well, learning music, having good conversational topics, learning foreign languages. Trapnall Hall is still being used in a social capacity, I guess you could say. It serves as the governor's official receiving hall, so he can use it anytime he wants for parties, receptions, things like that. So in a sense, they're carrying on something that the Trapnalls did in the 1840s and 50s.
Watermelon on the grill. You can grill anything.
We still have a whole show ahead packed full of Southern hospitality, including a twist on sweet tea that's sure to get the horses running. Up next, a trip to Old Salem museums and gardens. Founded in 1766 by the Moravians, the spirit of Old Salem, North Carolina is still alive and well, due in part by the meticulous records and accounts these Protestant missionaries kept. Today, the dedicated workers of the Old Salem Museums and Gardens have utilized this information during the restoration projects. Robbie King, the Director of Facilities, explains.
Salem is a very unique place. And there are lots of components to the collection of Salem. There are the objects, the furniture, there's the buildings, and then there's the landscape. And the landscape actually provides the context for almost everything else that we interpret in Salem. All the gardens that surround these buildings sort of ground it and bring history to life. In the earliest gardens, 1769, 1770, the gardens were almost entirely devoted to vegetables, fruits, herbs, medicinals, anything that they thought they would need either for that season or to store and preserve for the winter season. So those earlier gardens would have had square beds with grass paths in between in the European fashion. As the decades rolled on, they would incorporate more of the row beds that most of us are more familiar with in the South. When you moved out of the 1700s and into the 1800s, as the town progressed and outlying farms were introduced, and they could get food from outlying farms, they began to introduce flowers, roses, greater amounts of herbs, a progression of fruit trees, and just some basic vegetables that people still wanted to have in their kitchen gardens, but didn't necessarily need to supply themselves for the whole season.
Coming up after the break,
You can't get more classic and down-to-earth than pimento cheese.
renowned chef Regina Charbonneau shows us how to create a true Southern staple. You know, Regina, ever since I was a little kid, I've always loved pimento and cheese.
Well, it's just an American classic. You can't get more classic and down-to-earth than pimento cheese.
And it's very southern, isn't it?
It is. You know, we're in the Delta. I just felt like this is a great Delta dish.
Right, as we move from Helena, Arkansas over to Memphis on the American Queen Riverboat, it's perfect.
Thank you. Well, and I'm giving it a new twist. So, peppadew is the trade name for the pepper. It's more of a process. It's a South African pepper, but it just has such a nice flavor.
Yes.
So I thought that would be a nice twist. You have to have a really sharp cheese to give it that bite.
Otherwise, you'll lose the flavor because
Yes.
we're mixing it with cream cheese.
We are. What I've done is I've got the cream cheese, and we're going to add some mayonnaise to it. It's a 1/2 cup to 8 ounces of cream cheese.
Okay, and this is like 1 packet of cream cheese.
Yes, 1 packet. And the idea is to do the base and put everything in there and then add the cheddar cheese, so when you bake it, you get that bubbly, sharp cheddar, but it still holds its texture. So what I'm gonna do while we're mixing this is add just a little pinch of dried onion powder and a pinch of onion to give it some flavor. And of course, black pepper.
There we go.
Coarser black pepper, that's always good. I've got some cayenne, and I'm only gonna put a little pinch,
All right.
not too much. And so then you go ahead and add your colorful pickled peppers. Good, sharp cheddar cheese, just a yellow cheddar is the best.
Right.
If you start mixing,
What do you think?
I think it's there.
Yep, there we go.
So, and then I think this is kind of a fun summer thing. So I've got some fried green tomatoes today. We'll make a little sandwich. You could do little mini ones of those and have it as an appetizer.
Try
Or you
this.
could do, yeah, you've got to try that.
Oh my gosh. No, it's so good.
How do you like that? It would be fun too to do a little fried green tomato sandwiches.
Look at that.
That's
delicious.
kind of fun, huh? And simple, simple, simple.
You're magic in the kitchen.
Oh, you're fun to be with.
Thank you so much. Growing up in the South, I couldn't imagine a summer without watermelon and tomatoes. So why not combine them? Stay with us when Garden Style continues. Now, Justin, I have to say, this is quite a play on an old Southern favorite, the watermelon. Who doesn't love watermelon?
Everybody loves watermelon. And the cool thing about it, it takes it from that sweet treat that we all know to a really savory salad when you throw it on the grill and get a little grill marks on it.
Watermelon on the grill.
Watermelon on the grill. You can grill anything.
You wanted these quartered, right?
Let me see. Yeah. You're
right.
doing just right.
At about 2 inches thick each, and we have 8 pieces.
That's right.
What's next?
If you will get to slicing those yellow tomatoes there and maybe a few of those small jewel tomatoes.
Okay. Great.
I'm going to throw these on the grill and then I'm going to make the dressing.
Okay, great. Now, about how long do you keep the watermelon pieces on the grill?
It depends on how hot your grill is. Mine has been preheating here for a good long while. I would say the surface of it is probably around 750 degrees. So it's good and hot, and it's going to mark it fairly quickly.
So you want to watch them.
You can't really burn them, but yes, you don't. If you overcook them, you're going to end up with a mushy melon.
I was going to say mush.
And nobody likes a mushy melon.
Then you flip them because you have that beautiful sort of marking.
Well, I just turn them a quarter turn. I don't flip them to the other side. If you flip them to the other side, you've got that heat going all the way through.
I see. You will get the mushy melon.
You will get the mushy melon. So for the dressing, we're going to use this lime, the juice, and the zest of 1 lime. So great flavor.
This has to be one of the most favorite recipes in your cookbook.
It really is.
Particularly for this time of year.
Yes, tomatoes and watermelon, it's summer.
So lime juice, honey, about how much honey was it?
2 tablespoons and 2 tablespoons of olive oil.
Okay.
Depending on how much heat you like, this is cayenne pepper. I'm just going to give us just a little kick.
Yeah, about 1/8 of a teaspoon.
About 1/8 of a teaspoon. Then we want to zest this lime here.
I love zest.
I do too.
I've got these sliced. Is that about enough, you think?
I think we're ready to rock.
Okay.
I'm going to hand this to you.
right.
And just to emulsify the dressing, I want you to shake that up.
All right. So Justin, what do we have here? Enough dressing for the 8 pieces?
That's right. It'll serve 4 as a light main dish in the summer, or if it's a first course, it'll serve 8.
Look at those, beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. I can see how you just cooked them on one side, but you gave them a quarter turn to give that nice marking.
Presentation is everything.
Beautiful, got it. Okay, here we go. Close that down.
And there it is.
Perfect. Okay.
If you'll hand me 2 of those big yellow sliced tomatoes.
Right, okay. Here we go.
I like to put those right down on the plate just like that.
That.
And then we'll just put that right there.
Okay.
If you'll hand me that ancho chili powder.
Okay, here we go.
This is,
I wondered what you were going to do with that.
we go just right over the top with it, and then we're gonna go with a little bit of this goat cheese. I just like
Just
to
on the
do
top.
just a little dollop.
Touch.
There we go.
Okay.
Now, Alan, if you will give it a few of those tomatoes.
Right, I sliced a few of these little grape tomatoes.
Just right around the plate, maybe a few on top of it. And then you shook this dressing up for us. If you will pour it on there, I'm gonna get just a few sprigs of cilantro.
Okay. Now, you just want it drizzled over the top?
Just drizzle it over the top.
Okay.
Just get crazy with it.
All right.
That's
How's
perfect.
That? It's pretty good.
And we'll go just a few sprigs of cilantro.
I've had a tomato and watermelon salad before, but never grilled and presented like this.
Well, we try and keep it fresh.
Marvelous. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
After the break, tracing the rise of society in the South through paintings. Carolyn, Southern portraiture really can tell us a lot about society in the 18th century, can't it?
Yes, it can. Basically, there are two groups of people represented in these galleries. People who were ultra wealthy, those who owned large plantations and huge amounts of land.
Right.
And also a group of people who are becoming increasingly wealthy. These would have been smaller plantation owners, merchants, people of that class.
This rising
Crafts,
middle class.
Rising middle class, tradespeople, things of that sort. The family as a unit was terribly important in the 18th century, and how a person courted and intermarried with other families was also of great interest, particularly to those families who had a great deal of wealth. But by and large, the South, both economically and every other aspect, is basically an agrarian or rural society. And that makes for some difference in how artists work. Either they're itinerant and they travel around throughout the South.
Going to the commissioner's plantation.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if you live in Charleston or one of these big cities like Jeremiah Theus did, then usually you wait on someone at their house. And often you will see advertisements that say, I will wait on gentlemen and ladies at their house to do your portrait.
Yes.
And we have a good example of that here with one of the portraits of Washington, Colonel Washington.
Yeah, I guess he'd be colonel at this point, and I guess he's in a British garb.
He is. That is his uniform as colonel of the Alexandria militia.
So Washington would be, let's see, 40 years old here.
Exactly.
And this is done by Peale.
Washington commissions Peale to come and do his portrait.
So he came to Mount Vernon.
He went to Mount Vernon and he painted George, and he painted a few other portraits of family members while he was there. If you were visiting the Washington family, you would paint George, and you would do an image of Martha and maybe the stepchildren and so forth and so on, because artists weren't always available. You may have the entire family done at that time.
So the artist was really sort of in residence for a period of time.
Several weeks, usually.
Yeah. And now here we are, and now he's General Washington.
Yes, he is, and he's very famous at this point in his life. It's actually showing it after the Battle of Princeton, because the British flag and the British insignia have been captured and are laying there on the ground in front of him. And you can see a small group of British soldiers being marched away.
Escorted off,
that's right.
off the field.
Right.
Carolyn, thank you so much for your
You're
time
very
today.
welcome.
It's been very inspiring.
Thank you.
For me, being Southern is all about, well, a love of history and tradition, family values, manners, and a whole lot of heart. Hope you'll come visit us sometime in Arkansas and experience Southern hospitality firsthand. And if you want a quick fix, just check out my Facebook page, because we're posting pictures every day. I'm Alan Smith for Garden Style. Come on, Trudy. This one's called when he starts, he does go for a long time. He loads up. I just like, he'll go for now 2 weeks of water. I just took him out. Well, you know, we have to hydrate the little guy. Okay, good boy. Finished? Good boy.